Marwan Bishara is Al Jazeera senior political analyst and joins us from London. Hi, Marwan. Lots of stakeholders involved here, all choosing their words very carefully, but all having a vested interest in wondering what a new Syria might look like and how they might participate in it.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it shouldn't have been that difficult to say this was a violation of international law. You don't take advantage of a certain vacuum in a neighboring country and bomb the hell out of it. That shouldn't have been difficult, neither for Moscow nor for Washington or London. Unfortunately, we're not living in that world of some principle. But yes, as you said, there's a lot of stakeholders who are talking, but I think in the end of the day, it's going to be up to the Syrians, at least on the short term, to really send out the right signals, and not just rhetorically, because I think much of the transitional authority today, the transitional government, has in fact been saying a lot of right things. But the question is what or how they will walk their talk. For example, when they talk about inclusive government, this is really key because the whole world, all the Syrian people want inclusivity. They want democracy. They want participation. They want advanced citizenship. They don't want dictatorship. And they certainly don't want minorities and majorities. They don't want to be divided like the Americans divided Iraq on ethnic lines, Shiites and Sunnis and so on and so forth. And they certainly don't want to be like Lebanon, the way Lebanon was divided on ethnic lines. Syria is for all Syrians. Syria should be the state of all its citizens, while all its ethnicities and religion can practice freely, of course.
And then, of course, there is the elephant in the room where we've got Trump arriving in 4 weeks' time and everybody wondering what his direction, his take on what's going on right now will be in terms of certainly reigning in Israel.
Yes, and that's why people don't really care about what I forgot its name now, the Biden administration is saying. It's already passé in my head. And, I'm glad it's passé. But really, be that as it may, I think the Trump administration...
I do apologise, Marwan. We have to interrupt you. We're going over to our sister channel where the new Syrian Prime Minister Bashar al-Jilani is speaking to Mohammed al-Bashir. And, of course, we will just... Oh, I do apologise. It seems to have... The line seems to have gone from that live link. And of course, that interview was being held in Syria. We're hoping to get more of it. I do apologise. Let's go back to Marwan Bishara again, who's standing by for us in London. Marwan, I do apologise about that. We were going to go to that interview with the new Prime Minister, and I rudely interrupted you when we talked about the elephant in the room, President Trump arriving in mid-January.
Well, we are a news channel, and that certainly is news. It's very important for the rest of the world to hear what the Syrians themselves are saying. But yes, in terms of the next Trump administration, I think it could be one of two things, either much worse, if that's possible, than the Biden administration, or much better. And that's going to depend on what happened the next few weeks to a large degree. This is also follows from what I was saying earlier. If the Syrians send the right messages to Turkey, to Iran, to Jordan, and to others, and if others in the region want to participate in the rebuilding of Syria, and if Syria promises, as it tries to write up its constitution, that it will be an inclusive, democratic republic of sort, then I think it's going to be very difficult for anyone in London, Washington, or elsewhere to be opposing or hostile to it. But if it's going to go on the path of a fundamentalist religious path, then I think we will have problems. And I think Trump will be the first to jump on it with his, theological people around him.
It would have been interesting to hear what Mohammed al-Bashir, the Prime Minister designate for a new Syria, would have been saying. But I suppose really it's what he says, which also will be dependent on, you might say, the finances that are required by Syria to rebuild, and also the international recognition that is required to help Syria rebuild.
Yes, this is like a win-win situation, right? If the Syrians can get their act together and the transitional government provides the Syrians with their full rights as citizens, regardless of their religious affiliation or ethnicity, then this is definitely on the right path to international recognition. It's going to be very hard for anyone after 60 years of dictatorship, to be opposing a new young transitional government in Syria or a new Syria that embraces democratic, inclusive, humanitarian system, right? And I think, as I said, certainly the Syrian opposition in general have incredible talent, and they've written and they've spoken and argued about why Syria needs to be inclusive, why it shouldn't be divided on ethnic and religious lines, and why they would have a roadmap towards safety, security, and the rebuild-up of Syria. As you said, Sohail, it's going to be impossible without the participation and the help of regional and international donors and stakeholders to be rebuilding Syria. And not just Syrian economy, but also, yes, I must emphasize, Syrian military, Syrian security, because no country with sovereignty does not have security. It must have security like all other countries in the region. But for that to happen, the new transitional government must open up quickly to the other opposition and to the other segments of the Syrian society, and must build bridges. And certainly with the likes, for example, of Turkey. And we all know that Turkey came out more or less more influential in Syria, while Iran came out weaker, and probably not going to be in Syria anytime in the foreseeable future. But Turkey could play a major role as a neighbor, not as a dominant power. And that's why I think the next government in Syria will have to deploy its forces of security up to the Turkish border. There's no doubt about that. There should be no Turks, no Americans, no Israelis, no anybody bombing or taking control of territory in Syria. Certainly not the Israelis.
We'll certainly find out what does happen in the days ahead. Obviously, things are still moving along. Marwan Bishara, there, our senior political analyst. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.